Recording? We're good. Okay, a two-way table is a frequency table. So frequency, not in the sense of like science, but in math, frequency is a play off of the word frequent and like how frequently someone that's occurring to. That displays data collected from one source that belongs to two different categories. So all of the tables today, there's going to be basically two categories, two questions asked if you were surveying a group of people. Are you a freshman or sophomore? Do you have mobile access? So two questions and then their answers to those. One category is always represented by rows and one is always represented by columns. Okay, so mobile access, do they have a cell phone or not? So again, you're surveying a group of people and they're answering two questions. Are you a freshman or sophomore? Do you have access to a mobile device? Right? So then each one of these little numbers inside is called a joint frequency. We say joint because it is the answer to two different questions all at once. Okay, so Jackson is a freshman. Jackson, do you have a cell phone?
Yep.
So Jackson would fit into this joint frequency. Yes, he's a freshman, and yes, he has access to a cell phone, right? Then you have what's called marginal frequencies. Which are the sums of the rows or columns. So for example, again, you have all these freshmen that were interviewed here. Do you have a cell phone or do you not? But total number of freshmen would be 77, and that's called the marginal frequency. There are 77 total freshmen interviewed. Sophomores, 63 plus 12. And my math was all over the place last hour. I'm going to get it right this time. There were 75 total sophomores interviewed. Between the freshmen and sophomores, how many total had a cell phone? 118. How many total did not have a cell phone? 34. So these numbers on the outside are called marginal frequencies. Ooh, that was sloppy, sorry. Marginal frequencies. And then the last number you typically see on a two-way table is the total number of people surveyed. And that number always goes down here in the bottom right corner. You should be able to add together the column or the row to find that number. So for example, 77 plus 75 is 155. Check my math. 152? I think you're right. Yeah, 152. Well, if I add together these two numbers, 118 plus 34, I should get the exact same total number. You shouldn't have more people answering one question than the other. Everybody answered two questions. Okay, so this is the total number of people surveyed. So we're going to go with a really basic example down here. Find and interpret the marginal frequencies, that's just the straight up data numbers, for the two-way table above. We have interviewed people and seen how many are juniors, how many are seniors, how many ride the school bus, how many do not ride the school bus. So let's start by finding the marginal frequency for how many total juniors were interviewed here. So Maria, what's 38 plus 32? What's that? So 70 total juniors were interviewed. Let's look at how many total seniors were interviewed. 21 plus 44. Sam? 65 total seniors were interviewed. Let's see how many total people ride the school bus from who was interviewed here. So Savannah, what's 38 plus 21?
59.
And then let's see how many total do not ride the school bus. Ellie is gone. Ella, how many total do not ride the school bus? Good. So then for our last number, how many total were interviewed, you should be able to add together either the column or the row because it shouldn't be a different number. And Simba, how many total people were interviewed here? Perfect. And you can add the 70 plus the 65 or the 59 plus 76. Now it does say interpret. That would just be me saying, okay, 70 total juniors were interviewed, 65 total seniors. There were 59 total that rode a bus. There were 76 total that didn't ride a bus. I don't need you to write all those sentences, I don't think. Just make sure you understand those facts. Okay, on our next example here, we're just given pieces of the two-way table. We're going to have to fill it in ourselves and then find the rest of the pieces. So you have to read very carefully. It says you conduct a survey that asks 248 students in your grade about whether they take a foreign language or art class. And then da-da-da-da-da. So there are a total of 248 students that you're interviewed. That means that's that number. Total 248 students were interviewed. They can either answer yes or no to taking a foreign language or yes or no to taking an art class. It says 175 of the students take a foreign language class, total. So 175 said foreign language, yup. It doesn't say whether or not they answered the art question yet, just total 175 take a foreign language. So that's a marginal frequency. Now, of those, 36 are taking an art class. So of those people that said, yes, I'm in a foreign language, 36 of them also said, yes, I am in an art class. So of those 175, 36 said, yep, to both questions. 22 of the students do not take a foreign language or an art class. So they answered no to both questions. No, I don't take a foreign language. No, I don't take an art class. Organize the results in a two-way table and include the marginal frequency. So our job is just to fill in the rest of the data. So it's just a game of subtraction and addition. That's it. So it doesn't really matter, but let's just say, okay, 175 students total said, yes, I take a foreign language. Let's figure out how many of them don't take art. So 175 minus 36.
139.
One what?
39.
Cool. It doesn't really matter where I go next. I can figure out this number. If there's 248 total people interviewed and 175 said, yes, I take a foreign language, how many said, no, I don't take a foreign language?
73.
What is it?
73.
Okay. Let's see how many total people said, no, I don't take art. Let's go. Kate Bash, how many total people said, no, I don't take art? 139 plus 22. Okay. Doesn't really matter. I can work backwards either way here. There are a total of 73 that said no, they don't take a foreign language. 22 don't take art. Let's see how many do take art but don't take a foreign language. So I can do 73 minus 22.
51.
And then let's see how many total down here said yes, I take art. 87. Now the last thing I typically do is just make sure, like I would just make sure 87 plus 161 adds up to 248. It does not. There's a mistake somewhere. Uh-oh.
It adds up.
Did I type it in wrong?
Yeah.
87 plus.
Yep, it does. Sorry, I typed it in wrong. Thank you. Okay. Questions? So then the next thing we're going to do is just look at some relative frequencies, and the only difference here is we're going to look at some ratios or some percentages. That's it. So I should be able to easily, using a table like this, figure out, okay, of your people surveyed, what percentage of them are taking a foreign language and art? And all you would do is take that number, 36, divided by how many total people there were, and boom, there's your percentage. So that's all we're going to add in here to the relative frequencies. A joint relative frequency is you comparing the individual joint frequency to the total number of people surveyed. Like the example I just gave. The marginal relative frequencies say are, not if, are the sum of the joint relative frequencies in a row or column. So if I said, hey, what percentage of students said yes, they're taking a foreign language, you would take 175 divided by 248, and there's your marginal frequency, relative frequency. So again, the only difference here is when you see that word relative, I kind of say to people it sounds like the word relate, like how does that relate to the total number of people? So if you see the word relative today, and I think there's one homework problem like that, that means you're going to be looking for a percentage or a decimal, some kind of ratio. Hello. Thank you. Okay, now last hour I tried to do an in-class example and it didn't really work so well for me. Can you raise your hand real quick if you're taking an art class currently? I just want to see if we have a good number. Okay, great. That'll be better. How many of you are in choir? Okay. Last hour, 0 people were in choir, so my survey totally drowns because it wasn't a good distribution of numbers. All right, so I'm going to just exit out these and make my own example. So you're going to have to draw your own table in just a second here. It's okay. We're going to keep it really simple. We're going to make it look just like the table right here. So I'm going to ask you for...
All right. It's forks.
Hey, give her grace. The end of the year is here. Give her grace.
So weird, Adriana. You guys, last week I said so many weird things in the classroom.
Give her grace. End of the year.
Okay.
I would have said forks.
I started to say folks, and then I was going to ask if you played a sport, and then it came out as sports.
It should have been sports.
Sorry. All right, we're going to see how many of you play a sport.
There you go.
Not how many of you are sports.
And then I'm going to ask how many of you are in art class.
Does it count if you used to be in it?
No, I want current. Oh, I did it again. Sorry, let's keep the yeses in the same corner and the no's in the same corner. Like that. Do yes on top and no on the bottom. Little table, little two-way table.
It's just like the one on the...
Yep, it's exactly like the picture. Okay, so let's see how many total students we have in here. We'll go off that number. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25 people. So we are going to be surveying a total of 25 people. That's always kind of the number that goes down here in the bottom right corner. We'll get some marginal frequencies out to the side. Okay. So I'm going to start. This says take art, by the way. It kind of looks like take out right now, but take art. I would like for you to raise your hand nice, tall, high if you play a sport. And that doesn't mean in school or anything, any sport, okay? I want you to leave your hand up if you also are in an art class right now. 3. All right, put your hands down. So 3 of you play a sport and take art. Raise your hand again if you play a sport but you don't take art. Nice and high. Okay, keep them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 of you. So a total of 20 of you. Sorry. should have gone down here. Yes, you play a sport, but you don't take art. That number should have gone there. Sorry. So a total of 20 of you play a sport. Which means 5 of you should be answering that you don't play a sport, right? Hopefully. Raise your hand if you do not play a sport. Nice and high. You do not play a sport. Okay? Can you leave your hand up if you are in an art class currently? 0 of you. Oh, 1 of you. But don't you play a sport?
Oh, I do play sports.
So 1 of you doesn't play a sport but are in an art class, which means the other 4 of you don't play a sport but you are in an art class. Oh, I messed it up again.
Oh
No,
my
no,
God.
I'm good. 4 of you are not in art. Got it. Sorry. I'm good.
You thought wrong, buddy.
Sorry.
What's in the top for no and yes for take art in sport?
One person. Binks doesn't play sports but is taking an art class.
And I'm gonna guess that's a name.
Huh?
That's not a name, sorry.
Okay, so then it looks like a total of you, there's 4 people taking an art class. There are 21 of you not taking an art class. And there are 5 total people who do not play a sport. So the next thing we're going to do here is we're going to find what's called relative frequencies. So we're going to find the percentage of people. So I'm just going to redraw an abbreviated version of this table here.
Does that say 24 or 4?
4.
4.
I thought that was an 8.
Looks like a 9.
No one else?
That 4 looks like an 8.
Because like the top corner kind of goes around.
That looks like a 4.
Like.
Okay, so we're going to find the relative frequencies, which just means the percentages. That's all. This is very, very simple with a calculator.
Do you want us to put the side ones too or no?
We're going to get there in a second.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get there in a second. Okay, so we're going to start with the joint relative frequencies. All we have to do is take the number of people that answered those 2 questions like that. So there were 3 of you that play a sport and are taking art. We're going to take you 3 and divide by the total number of people that were surveyed, and there were 25 of you. So 3 divided by 25, I know it's getting really small down there, sorry. 3 divided by 25 is 0.12. So there's a joint relative frequency of 0.12, or 12% of you. 12% of the people in this room that answered this survey are playing a sport and are taking art. 1 person does not play a sport, but is taking art. So 1 divided by 25 is 0.04. So 4%. 17 people said that you do play a sport, but you don't take art class out of the 25 total surveyed. So 17 divided by 25 is 0.68. So 68% of you play a sport, but you're not taking art. And then 4 of you which is 0.16, and I'm running out of space here, sorry. Don't play a sport and don't take art. So you got 0.12, 0.04, 0.68, 0.16. So then your marginal relative frequencies are just, again, those decimals added together. So 0.12 plus 0.04 is 0.16. So 16% of you are taking an art class in here. 0.68 plus 0.16, 0.84. 84% of you are not taking an art class. How many of you play sports? 0.12 plus 0.68 is 0.8, 80% of you. Which means, how many of you should not be playing a sport? 20. And if we add those together, we get 0.2. Now, I could have also found those numbers, those percentages, by taking the marginal frequency divided by how many surveyors. So I could have done 20 divided by 25 and gotten 0.8, 5 divided by 25 and gotten 0.2, so on and so forth. All you guys need to know, though, is that this final number right here in this corner should always be 100%. If you add together 0.16 plus 0.84, you should get 1. If you add 0.8 plus 0.2, you should get 1, because that's 100% of the people. That's the only difference. We have some decimals now. I'm going to do one more example. The two-way table shows the results of a survey that asked college-bound high school students whether they plan to go to an in-state college. Make a two-way table that shows the joint marginal relative, that's the key word. Oh, relative, that means decimals, frequencies. Let's just finish off the two-way table to start here. So, how many total juniors are there? 142 plus 170. Magnus, what's 142 plus 170? Let's see how many total seniors there are. 204 plus 124. Lily? Okay, how many total are going to in-state college? Lathan, what's 142 plus 204? Good. And then how many total do not plan to go to in-state college? Teal is gone. Jack B, 170 plus 124. Okay, and then you should be able to add either row or column here for the total number surveyed. So, Caden L, what's the total number of people surveyed here? Right, so add. Mm, 312 plus, yeah, 640. 312. Good. Okay. So now we find the percentages. So all you have to do here is take the total number in that box, the 142, and divide by the total number of people who were surveyed. And I don't care if you write it as a decimal or as a percentage. I'll probably just write it as a decimal. But if you would prefer to write percentages, that's fine. Now, this is our first one that we've seen. We happened to get lucky on our own survey, and they were nice numbers. This one's not a nice number, so I want you to round it 2 decimal places. So 0.22, 22% would be that first box. So if it's a big decimal, just round it 2 places. Let's see how many are not going to in-state college but are juniors. 170 divided by 640. 0.27 if you round correctly. Here's what I mean by that marginal frequency. If I take 312 and divide by 640, I get 0.49. And if I add together 0.22 and 0.27, I also get 0.49. So you can find that number 2 different ways. You can actually take the percentage, or you can just add those rows together. Okay, now we go to our seniors. How many are going to in-state? 204 out of 640 interviewed. Adriana, what's 204 divided by 640?
3.2.
0.32. Yeah. And then we have 124 divided by 640. Jackson. should be able to add the 0.32 and 0.9 to get this next marginal frequency row. Or I can take the percentage of 328, that's fine too, but I should get 0.51. And that's a good sign because 0.49 and 0.51 added together is 1, and they should be. That'd be 100% of your people. And then real quick, if I add together 0.22 plus 0.32, I get 0.54, which means this should be 0.46 if I do this correctly. 0.27 plus 0.19 is 0.46. Again, these should always add to equal 1 every single time. Okay. Questions on any of that? Tomorrow we'll get into some conditional stuff, but I'm hoping this is pretty easy stuff right now. Your homework is 4 problems. It's page 347, 1 through 4. I feel like most of you will probably finish it. There's one problem that has relative frequencies with decimals. The other 3 are just straight up raw data, like this one. So I think 1 through 3 are like this, and I think number 4 is like this, I think. Don't quote me on that. I don't want this to be one more stressful thing. I want you to learn how to do it. I don't want you to go home and have a bunch of homework, though. If you don't finish it, just put it away, and we'll give you some time tomorrow morning to finish it up. Bless you.